actual Facebook page. One more time. And we're live on Facebook, Mr. James. And last but not least, I will refresh on YouTube. That's off there. And let's see, restream. Hey everybody, this is Charles Blair, the Mad Scientist, and I want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of Duru Interviews, where every actual interview is with an actual Duru. I know what you're saying. Well, Charles, what in the hell is a Duru? A Duru is somebody that I consider an expert in the business that not only is doing the business, but they can actually teach you and show you the business. And today we have a special guest, my good friend and the friend of many, Mr. James Rey. Say hello to everybody, James.
Hey, Charles. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Everything looks good, my man. Thank you for spending the actual Saturday afternoon with everyone on this actual interview. I know you are very busy gentlemen, and I want to really thank you guys for spending the time for being here. Now, everything looks good, my man. Thank you for. Now, first thing, James, let everybody know exactly who is James Rey.
So who is James Rey? So I started working in real estate about 5 years ago. Prior to that, I owned a management consulting company, which I still have a couple of clients that I take care of now. But about 5 years ago, I wanted to get into real estate and started doing flips. And after about a year, figured out it was more work than I wanted. And it was basically like another job. So I took a class from someone named Nicole Amundsen about 4 years ago, and a phenomenal class. And we've been partners ever since. And we've been doing acquisitions of multifamily space and mobile home parks and a little bit of self-storage since then. It's been going great.
Now, guys, you know what this title of this actual episode is. It's Generating Passive Cash Flow for Life with Apartment Buildings, Mobile Home Parks, and Self-Storage Facilities. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but trust me when I say Nicole and James are the real deal. Give me a little bit of sense of James, exactly. How did you get started in real estate, period? How long ago was that?
So I started about 5 years ago, and the premise behind that, well, let me tell you, all my life I've always had two jobs. I can't think of a time when I've had less than two jobs. I've always had something going on the side or a business or whatever it may be. And at the time, my wife and I decided that we wanted to get into real estate, and because we'd heard that that's where all wealth is created.
Right.
We started looking around, and as I'm sure a lot of people know, there's lots of programs on HGTV about flipping houses. And they look very simple, very stress-free. And so we thought we would do that, and we did about a dozen the first year. And man,
hold on a second. You did 12 deals the first year in the business.
Yes.
Man, how did you accomplish that the first year in your business?
We came in really hot. We made some mistakes. We probably should have come in a little bit slower. But we had some money set aside and found some wholesalers and brokers that were willing to work with us. And we just hit it hard.
Man, that's fantastic. So 12 deals in the first year of the business. That made you say, okay, what? I'm going to get into commercial. What happened between that transition from residential to commercial?
Well, so I figured out pretty quick that I was only as good as my last deal. So every time I did a deal and I sold it, I had to get another deal. So we had 2 or 3 deals running at any given time. But it was just, it's like a job. It's a rut. You keep going over and over and over again. And a friend of mine used to sell commercial space to a large retail organization. And I had wanted to get into something bigger than just single family flips. And I asked him, I said, what you do looks pretty good. Maybe I should start buying commercial space like stores and stuff like that, or small strip malls. And he told me something which has stuck with me the entire time. It's like, James, people will always need a place to live. And that basically made my mind up. I said, you know something, I'm going to find somebody to help me to buy apartment buildings and mobile home parks. That was kind of the idea in the very beginning. Actually, I started with apartment buildings. And then when I met Nicole and took her class, it really opened my eyes to also mobile home parks. But that's basically how I got into the business, and it's been great.
So tell me a little bit about your meeting of Nicole. How did that take place? Because for those of you who don't know, Nicole Amundson is probably one of the most knowledgeable person I know on the subject of apartment buildings, mobile home parks, and as well as self-storage facilities. How did that relationship begin? Was it a chance meeting? Was it at a meetup group? How do you guys initially met?
So kind of a weird story, like I think a lot of great stories are. So my friend had told me, hey, do something where people always are going to have a need. So find multi-unit buildings or mobile home parks. And some guy had been sending me emails every couple of months. I don't know how I got on this list about real estate. And he seemed very knowledgeable. It was always positive, always uplifting. So I had his email, and I knew he was local. I think he was up in Blair. So I emailed him and said, listen, you don't know me. I'm on your list. I'm looking to do something with apartment buildings. What do you think I should do? And he said, one of the local RIAs has a woman that is teaching a class. She's been teaching it for a little while, and she's giving a small meetup presentation, like a half-hour presentation at this place up in Bel Air. So I got in my car. I drove out there. She was having it in a restaurant with a bar, was part of the restaurant, kind of like a TGI Fridays, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, prior to the real estate business, my other second job was doing background checks for NSA.
Okay.
So I met her and said, can I sit down with you for a little bit to find out about, who you are and this class you're teaching? And I grilled her for an hour and a half. Poor woman. She was very nice about it. She didn't say, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm being grilled by a police officer, but she was very nice about it. And, when you think about it, the class is considering how much you can save and how much you learn, the cost of the class isn't really relevant. What was relevant to me was, am I going to get the best information, and is this woman real? And to use kind of your term, she turned out to be the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
She's been phenomenal to work with. I went ahead and took her class, and it's been fantastic ever since. The class taught me just enormous amounts. I think that it had not taken the class and I tried to get into it like I did with single family, I think I would have not gotten anywhere near as far as I have today.
So first of all, I want to thank those that's on the broadcast. Gary, welcome to the broadcast, my friend. All my individuals out there on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, thank you all for being on this broadcast, especially on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. So you said that meeting with Nicole is what really sparked you into that realm of commercial real estate investing. Exactly at this point in time, what does your holdings look like when it comes to the commercial side?
So combined, we've got a little over 4,700 units, and we've got those spread out in about 11 states.
Okay, we're talking about, I don't know if you heard that right, guys, over 4,000 units in 11 states. So that's a combination of apartment buildings, mobile home parks, and self-storage facilities, correct?
Correct.
How does one, and this is going to be going out to all those individuals out there that's listening to, I know you found that person that really sparked your interest. How do you recommend that person who's listening to this broadcast, who wants to get into the space, what should they do first to really put some type of footprint into the space of apartment buildings or so on?
Well, so I think with anything, you want to compress the learning curve, right? You want to get as fast forward as possible in the shortest amount of time, but you also want to do it right. So I'm a big proponent now of education. I think, I took Nicole's class. We now have a class as well. Whether you take our class or somebody else's, I would highly, highly encourage people to get educated before you move into this realm. Even with single family, you can get hurt and drop, $10, $15, $20,000, which is a lot of money, and lose it. And with multifamily and mobile home parks, those numbers can be the same or even larger. So spend the time, spend a little bit of money, and get educated. And I guarantee you, you will be so much further ahead than 90% of the people out there that just kind of get into this business and it takes them 5 years to get their first building. You can really compress the learning curve by taking a class.
What are some of the ways right now? Because I know you guys just mentioned you have over 11. You currently are investing in 11 different markets. What is? I know this is really like a long answer to this question, but if you can condense it a little bit, what are ways in which you can decide what's the best market to invest in?
So there's a lot of different ways, right? So there is a big push now for what's called emerging markets. So markets that are getting a lot of employment, a lot of new households are being built, new companies are going there. And then the rates in those markets in terms of growth of the rental amounts could be 5, 6, 7%, which is huge. Sometimes those emerging markets are a little bit tight because everyone's heard about them. So
of course,
you have less supply, more demand, so the prices go up. So unless you get in really early, sometimes the deals go away. So Nicole and I have always been big proponents of secondary and tertiary markets. If a market is stable or growing a little bit, a lot of times we can find better deals there than we can in the emerging markets. So what we'll end up doing is we will look in different parts of the country we think we might have an interest in and start delving into that state and finding out, okay, in this state, where is the best opportunity for where the price is right, where there's a little bit of population increase, where there's a little bit of job increase, and we'll specifically look in those. And the other side of that sometimes is brokers will send us deals maybe in a state we haven't considered, but it's a really good deal. So we do it backwards. We got the deal first, and then we'll actually dig into the market and make sure it's a market we have an interest in. And then if it does, we move forward. So sometimes the deal first, sometimes the market first, but both have to be good for us to move forward.
And what is considered, because you just mentioned something about the deal has to be good. And I know this is also going to be a it depends type of answer, but tell me, what is considered a good deal?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of people out there still to this day that purchase a property and think, you know something, I'll just put in X amount of dollars out of my pocket every month, and in 10 years, I'll get a good return. We don't do that. The property has to absolutely cash flow from day one. And I'm not talking about just a couple of dollars. It has to be enough in case there's an oops in the first year or two that there's enough cash flow there to take care of it. So number one, it's got to cash flow. Number two, it's got to have some sort of upside. So what I mean by that, and you'll hear this term quite a bit, is called value add. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult to buy a property that is already doing fantastic, all the rents are at market rates, and make any profit on it. You might make 5%, 6% return. And there are some big institutions and some big overseas money, and they're fine with that. We're not like that. We don't want to make 5 or 6%. When we look and we underwrite or we analyze a deal, we want to make sure that we are at 15, 16% annualized return over a 5-year period. So if we bring in investors, which we sometimes do, we want to make sure they get or have gotten in the past between 15 and 16% on their money annualized when you combine the cash flow and the back end. So obviously, if we're giving them 15%, then obviously we need to make money on top of that because it's a for-profit business.
Exactly.
So returns are pretty big.
That's a hell of a return, James.
I think so. I think considering what a lot of the returns that are out there now, I think it's a very strong return. I would be concerned if someone was offering me 20, 25, 30% because anytime you get a huge return, usually the risk is higher. So what I like about the multifamily business or the real estate space is there's always a solid asset. There's always something there. It doesn't just disappear because it's on paper. So it's a relatively safe investment, and you get, like you said, a very good return for a pretty safe investment.
Now, is Maryland one of those markets that you are investing in right now?
Maryland is one of the markets where we're looking to invest right now. We both live in Maryland, and for whatever reason, we just started buying stuff in other states. Mm-hmm. So right now, we're a little tired of getting on planes. So we're going to start looking locally, probably within anywhere we can get to within a 5-hour drive, and we're going to start looking around pretty aggressively, and have been about for the last month or so. But moving forward, that's going to be our kind of 5-state area.
Where are the markets at right now that you guys currently have holdings in?
In terms of, what do you mean where the markets are?
As far as what states you currently are investing in right now.
Oh, so we have a lot of stuff on the West Coast. So we have Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. We're looking at some stuff actually in Wyoming right now, even though, again, we don't want to get on a plane.
Right.
We have stuff in Vegas, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Kentucky, and there's a couple of others that I always forget.
Yeah, and I know for the fact that with all those different states and markets that you're investing in, how tough is it managing the assets you guys have?
Well, if you do it right, um, management is not that difficult. So we will not buy a property that we have to self-manage. We have to find a really good property management company to do that work for us, and then we basically manage the manager. Um, One of our golden rules is that no matter how good a deal is, if we do not have a property management company or can identify one that we're comfortable with, no matter how good the deal is, we won't buy the deal.
Ah.
Because since we're not next door or it's not right in our same town, we want to make sure that we're able to trust the property management company, because a lot of these situations are turnaround situations, right? We're adding value. So we need a company that can not only manage the property, but manage the value add. And then again, since I don't think we have any property within a 5-hour drive, maybe some in Pennsylvania, but most of them are much further than that, we rely heavily on property management companies that we hire.
Now, what are some of the things that you do when it comes to analyzing or deciding on a good property management company? What makes that company a good property management company to handle your assets?
So we actually have a 45 question questionnaire where it takes about between an hour and a half to actually interview a property management company. So we'll identify, let's say, if we were going to go into somewhere in Maryland, it's called Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided, something, we're going to buy some stuff in Baltimore. We like the market. Let's find 3 decent property management companies. And we usually get those by talking to brokers, insurance companies, other property managers. And we'll find that the same 2 or 3 property management companies keep coming up. So we'll go and we'll interview all 3 of those companies. And then we'll ask them for 3 referrals of people that have the same kind of property that we have. So we don't want someone with a brand new 2019 property.
Nice.
A property that was built in the 1980s is a completely different animal. So we'll interview those individuals, and then we'll ask for 3 references of individuals that own property that they're managing. And then we'll ask for 3 separate addresses. So we're basically getting 6 references, right?
Right.
All those 3 owners, we're going to interview them and find out if they're happy with a product. And then we're also going to go buy 3 properties and make sure that the properties are up to the standard that we require for our own properties. If they pass all that, then when we go to find a property, we'll still take the top 2 property management companies and have them walk the property with us and see what they see. And then based on that, we'll make a final decision as to who's actually going to get our business.
So with that game plan in place, you guys could practically, which you already are doing, manage properties all around the world.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, so you guys really have what you would consider a turnkey virtual business.
So after the first year, yes. So in the first year, there's a lot of oversight that you have to take care of because, again, a lot of our properties are turnaround properties.
Mm-hmm.
But after the first year and a half, maybe we spend an hour a month on each property. So it can become very passive. You still have to check on them once a month because if property managers feel like you're not touching base with them, your property can kind of get away from them. Sort of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? You have to stay on top of them once a month, even if it's only for an hour, but they need to know that you are concerned about your property and that you're going to keep tabs on them. But for the first year and a half, you're going to put in quite a bit more time. But after that, it's passive cash flow for life.
Hence the title of the actual Duru Interviews episode today.
Absolutely.
So do me a favor. Give me a sense right now, James, exactly where do you see the passive cash flow Reach LLC brand going at next? You got any other markets that you're looking to get into right now?
So we're doing a couple of different things, right? So we are continuing to grow. We have some pretty aggressive goals for the next 10 years. Creating wealth through real estate is a long-term play. It's definitely not get rich quick. So we're continuing to expand our holdings, and we'll do so based on our plan over the next 10 years. We've also taken the class that Nicole was teaching before I took it. She was teaching it live, and then I actually started helping her teach it. And it's a lot of work. I mean, it's 4 days, 7 in the morning until 7 at night, one after the other, and people were just getting a little overwhelmed, and we were getting exhausted. So we ended up doing is a little while ago we decided to actually take the class on the web,
Mm-hmm.
and thank you so much for your assistance with that. It's been invaluable, and we've put together a web program with an enormous amount of value. We have 60 hours of video. We have all sorts of forms. We have audio transcripts. We have MP3s. It's just a phenomenal, phenomenal product. We're very proud of it. Um, Part of what Nicole has always wanted to do is give back, and she's kind of given me the same thought process. She's helped me out tremendously, so I want to help other people out as well. So we think we put together a good product, and we've got a lot of people using it and having great success with it.
Yeah, man, I've actually seen the passive cash flow for life system, and it's a massive amount of information. Kudos to both of you guys. You guys put a lot of work into that actual system, and I think it's a huge way for people that really want to understand how to get into apartment buildings, how to get into mobile home investing, how to get into self storage. You guys cross every T, dot every I, and it's going to be a fantastic hit for you guys. I take my hats off to you. But one of the things I know that a lot of people have, and I remember going to one of your workshops, and a lot of people was asking questions about this one term, the term forced appreciation. How does that reflect to what you guys are doing when it comes to your cash flow?
So real estate, when you look at single family homes and multifamily homes, there are some similarities, but there's also some larger differences. So for example, if you're going to do a flip and you put in a ton of money into your property, you are limited by the selling price of your property based on the comparables in the neighborhood. So I could have a house that's twice as nice as my neighbor, but if the comparables say that the last 3 or 4 houses have sold for $250,000, even though I think mine is worth $400,000, I can't sell it for that price because it's always going to be priced based on the comparables. The beauty of multifamily is that you can force the appreciation. So I could have two buildings built by the same person, same number of units, let's call it 20 units, built in the same year, so they're exact duplicates. And one building could be worth $500,000, and my building that I buy could be worth $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
But by forcing the appreciation, meaning maybe bringing rents up to the market, maybe fixing up the inside of the actual unit, maybe getting better with my expenses and decreasing expenses. There's all sorts of different ways that you can increase the revenue that comes out of that building. And multifamily opportunities are measured by the amount of revenue, by the amount of cash that comes in. So if I can double the cash flow of my building versus the building next to me, in a year or two, the building that I paid $500,000 for is worth $1 million, even though the building next to me is still only worth $500,000. So you have so much more control. It's so much safer to do multifamily than it is single family.
And that brings me to that next question. Why do you think that people are still gravitating towards the residential side as opposed to the true passive, true retirement side, which is commercial real estate investing?
Well, I think commercial real estate investing has been a little bit of a secret, and the secret's gotten out a little bit. But people have been making a lot of money in multifamily for a long time, and the word has just not gone out there. I think that single family has always been popular because most people either live in a house and they mortgage it, or they rent a house, or they grew up in a house. Most people, not everybody, but most people are experienced with a single family home.
Right.
And I think the comfort level to get into single family homes for a lot of people is just that much higher. They look at multi-unit, it's like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I think once they understand multi-unit, well, let me back up for a second. Every person that I've ever met that has been successful in multifamily always has the same story. If I could have not done single family, gone directly into multifamily, I would have. And number two, if I could knew what I know now, I would have spent a lot more time right from the very beginning hitting it hard as opposed to letting it drag out. So skip single family, go right to multifamily, and hit it hard right from the very beginning. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I hear you guys all the time talk about the actual lifestyle that you guys are living based off of all of your holdings. And individuals and everybody out there have to realize that every aspect of investing requires you to do something, you to work hard, you to give your all to that business. The
Right.
question is, are you going to be continually working in it, or would you rather work on it? And from
Right.
where I'm looking at, I see that commercial is an ideal way to work more on the business than to work in the business. Is that a correct assessment?
That's 100% correct.
Give me a sense now, James, exactly. We talked a little bit about the apartment building space. How does one get into the mobile home and the self-storage space? Because I know you guys are doing all three.
Right. So we do a lot more mobile home parks than we do self-storage. Self-storage has been priced a little bit higher than we like to buy. We like to buy bargains, obviously. The mobile home park space is a great space because a lot of people either aren't familiar with it, or when they think of mobile home parks, they think of trailer parks.
Exactly. Exactly.
So nobody wants to live in a trailer park. We don't own any trailer parks. We own mobile home communities. They provide affordable housing, which is a huge need in this country.
Hold on a second, James. Hold on a second.
But,
So, what's the difference between a mobile home park and a trailer home community? Enlighten us.
so the mobile home parks have the cars up on jack stands or cinder blocks. They've got trash in the back. They've got, well, let me ask you this. So, did you ever see the show Cops?
Yes.
When the cops went into a mobile home community, it was a trailer park.
Okay. Okay.
We don't have those problems in mobile home communities. It's a totally different clientele. It's a totally different curb appeal. The units are much nicer. In good mobile home parks, you have teachers, police officers, firemen, state workers. This is something where it's priced affordably.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of living sometimes in an apartment, some people want the ability to have a yard or someplace they can park their car right next to it.
Gotcha.
So it's an option for people. And for those people that want a home and can't afford a single family home, it's a wonderful option. These homes are built just like stick-built homes now. And they're actually very nice inside. I've been amazed at some of the homes I've walked into that are something I would absolutely have no problem living in myself.
And you guys are buying the whole park with the actual homes on the pads, or exactly how are you, or what makes a good deal for you guys?
So you can do either one, right? You can buy the park, which is what we do, and you can buy the homes in the park and rent those homes out. So we do a little bit of both. If you're going to buy the homes, you're going to get more rent, right? Because you're not only renting the land, you're renting the home, so you're going to make more money. However, your expenses are going to be higher because now you have to take care of all of the maintenance on those units.
Right.
Something where you don't make as much money, but is a little bit less work intensive, is to just buy the land and the people actually own the homes on them. Therefore, you're only responsible for infrastructure. So for the roads and the flowers, the leasing office and the trees, you're responsible for those. But in terms of the actual physical homes, the people that live there actually own them, and they take care of everything involved with the home. We only take care of, like I said, just kind of the grounds, if you will.
Got you. And how are you guys with all these different? I think you said how many thousands of units you guys got right now?
4,700.
How are you guys financing all of these units?
So you can do it a bunch of different ways, right? So a lot of the time, and we recommend to people, is to partner with people, right? There are people out there everywhere that have money and it's not working for them. They could be somebody like a high-paid physician, or it could be somebody that owns a bunch of single-family homes and decides they want to do something else with their money. But the best idea most of the time is you can buy smaller units on your own all day long. If you want to get into the bigger units until you've actually bought some smaller units and made some cash, chances are you're going to partner with somebody. And we encourage people to do that. We have students partnering with each other all the time. We think it's a great way to limit your risk as well, because now you have two sets of eyes looking at the same thing. You can actually partner individually with individuals that have money, or you can do something called a syndication, where people come to you with money, but they don't do any of the work. So you can either have like a JV, a partnership, or a syndication, but that's what we encourage people to do. Do the work, let the money come from somebody else, and build your wealth that way and just split the profits.
Now, what about owner structured financing? Is that also prevalent in these deals?
Yes, actually it is. The last two deals that we've done for students, one is 20 units and the other one is 19 units. Both of those we were actually able to negotiate with the owners, and they both took back financing at good rates and a good amount.
Excellent. Last but not least, my friend, this 30 minutes have gone by so fast. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning into this episode of Duru Interviews. James, if someone wants to reach out to you guys, how can they reach out to Passive Cash Flow for Life, Reach LLC?
So the best way is probably email. We're on the phone quite a bit during the day, but if I get to know you, I'll share my cell number with you as well. But for right now, the best way to get in touch with us is at my email address, which is james@passivecashflowforlife.com. And I usually get back to people within a day.
I want to thank each and every one of you personally for being on this broadcast. Michael, Tammy, Raymond, James, Greg, Lisa on Instagram, Richard, James. Again, thank you for being on the broadcast, for spending this 30 minutes with us. Remember, Duru Interviews is all about giving you 100% all content, no BS, no fluff, and no gurus allowed. Thank you, my friend James. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Duru Interviews. Bye-bye.